and welcome to CATSweek. I'm Annalise Poorman. The Bloomington Utilities Service Board opened bid offers for the 2019-2020 sewer rehabilitation project. Utilities engineer Phil Peden presented the bids at the January 21st meeting.
We're going to be opening bids for the 2019-2020 sewer rehabilitation project. This is sewer lining in a few neighborhoods around town: Hoosier Acres, Fritz Terrace.
Peden presented 5 bids. He said all bids will be brought back to the board after revision. The next Utilities Service Board meeting is February 3rd. The Bloomington Redevelopment Commission approved a multi-use path project review form. City engineer Neil Copper said the project aims to fill in walkable surface gaps throughout the city. He talked about path construction at the January 21st meeting.
So a couple of these projects, some of them there's existing sidewalk, but it's either non-compliant or we just want to replace it with a multi-use path so it serves more users. Some of these areas there's nothing there at all today. But we are looking at, this project's been in the works for a while. It has a lot of federal funding supporting it. Those details are in the project review form. Is actually queued up for construction this year.
Copper said all path installation will be included in one construction contract. Bloomington garage manager Ryan Daly proposed a video intercom installation contract with CE Solutions. He proposed a 24-hour help desk center for all Bloomington parking garages at the January 21st Board of Public Works meeting. Board member Dana Palazzo asked about customer interactions occurring over the intercom system.
Can you, before you move on, how does that work? Like if somebody's at, like, who would be the multiple people having issues?
Okay, so if somebody's at the Morton Street Garage right now, and they press the assistance button, and somebody's at the Walnut Street Garage, and they press the assistant button, the first call gets the answer.
Okay.
So you may press the help button, and she presses the help button. I answer your phone call, and now she's waiting for 2 minutes while we wrap up and help you out.
Okay.
And it could be even longer depending on what type of interaction that's going on. It might be somebody who needs help in a different way, or it could be, how do I do this? And you just walk them through the process. All the while, the other customer at the other garage is waiting for assistance.
Daly said overnight staffing hours could potentially be reduced. Director of Public Works Adam Wason said customer service can be expected to improve.
By the time the phone call gets in and the customer service person stops the cleaning project they're on or anything else, it's a little, may I say, clunky right now, just in terms of always getting somebody quickly. This will be pretty instantaneous. You'll have a screen with a picture of a person. You'll be able to interact in that way.
Wason said on-call overnight staff will be available. The board approved the contract. Installation will be complete by February. The Monroe County Plan Commission held a final hearing for the Southern Meadows Major Subdivision preliminary plat. Assistant Director Jacqueline Nestor said the subdivision would include 98 parcels in Perry Township. She said there will be 6 phases of construction. Nestor addressed concerns about sinkholes in the January 21st meeting.
In the previous meetings, there were some concern about development of these lots in relation to the sinkholes. And so there are 4 lots that share 6 sinkholes, essentially. And the petitioner has submitted some exhibits to show what it might look like to have development on these without disturbing the sinkholes. And I think I have that on a later slide, but I will show that as well.
Nestor said the plat contains 11 sinkholes. Commissioner Julie Thomas addressed karst-related concerns and water damage for future property owners. She said construction will create new water pathways.
Has there been any consideration for delaying some portions of this until we can get a sense after a year or so of how this property is going to handle all of this new water pathway that's going to be created?
Coordinator Terry Quillman said the developer can eliminate plots if new sinkholes are found. Thomas said she's concerned by the number of sinkholes. Commissioner Margaret Clements said development could impact surrounding properties. Neighboring resident Nathan May said the area already has many serious flooding issues.
We say that the property is relatively flat, but we ask for a waiver on 44 lots. Half of these lots to get a waiver against the grade so we don't do the grading. So if the water is not being slowed down, then now you're allowing that water to flow freely on the top of the ground until it hits hopefully these retention areas that catch it. And the grading of the road is even considered a little bit too steep, in my opinion, when that water's flowing down that road. What's keeping it then from, I guess, multiple part questions. Then when these retention ponds fail, we're after the fact, development's gone, developers, petitioners are gone, and who's that left? Is that left on homeowners? Is that left on, we're talking about a 4-year phase, and I love that, but the beginning, these 44 lots, and this piece is a part of that earlier phase. So I think we will find out pretty early where this water is going and what's going to happen to it, but we already have an existing problem with flooding.
Thomas and Clements both voted no. However, the Plan Commission approved the plat proposal with 10 conditions. And we will have more CATSweek after this message.
Let's talk about sex.
What is consent?
And what's not?
Consent is based on choice.
Consent is active, not passive.
Consent is giving permission without feeling pressure.
What is not consent?
Silence.
Passed out.
Intoxicated.
Fear.
It is not consent.
Got consent?
Ask.
Sex without consent is a crime. Only yes means yes.
Welcome back to CATSweek. Marching band director Aaron Wells proposed a field trip to Ireland at the Richland Bean Blossom School Board meeting. Wells said he received a personal invitation from the mayor of Dublin during the January 21st meeting.
What it is we would be the honored band of the mayor of Dublin, and when he comes down the parade route in St. Patrick's Day, we would be the band that's with him.
Wells said the trip would happen during spring break of the 2021 school year. The board approved the trip. The Monroe County School Board selected Jacinda Townsend Guides as their 6th district representative. The school board interviewed 6 candidates in their January 21st work session meeting. Board member Sue Wanzer invited Guides to share her concerns with the school corporation.
The schools here are incredibly segregated. We have at almost every elementary school, save for Fairview, we have a very small number of Black students. In those schools, I had a kindergartner at Binford. There were, I think, 3 or 4 Black kids that year in kindergarten. They put one Black child in each class so that these children didn't have each other. And so the diversity was kind of like happening on the backs of those children. So when you think about that and then look at the fact that these children are also being disciplined at this much higher rate, and I think about what is a day, like what is that kid's day? That kid's day is that they went to school and maybe they were the only Black kid in their class all day, and then they were more likely to be disciplined, and 1 out of 10 of them maybe were. And that's really disturbing to me.
Guides said implicit bias training is one solution. Guides will take oath of office at the January 28th school board meeting. Deputy Attorney Stephen Lucas proposed a recommendation to amend the Bloomington Municipal Code. He spoke in the January 22nd Bloomington City Council meeting. Lucas proposed adding a chapter referring to non-consensual towing.
This ordinance would only regulate activities that fall under this definition, which means the towing by a tow business or tow truck operator of a vehicle trespassing on a parking lot, which parking lot has a specific definition that we'll go over as well, that is made at the request of the property owner or the owner's agent without the consent of the vehicle's owner.
Lucas said towing companies must obtain simultaneous written authorization from the parking lot owner. He said under the ordinance, vehicles must be towed directly to a storage facility. He said owners must prove ownership and pay fee in full or set up a payment plan. Councilmember Sue Scambaluri asked Lucas about payment plan interest.
A customer who enters into a payment agreement, as opposed to someone who simply makes a payment, could be subject to interest or to additional fees that are not expressly prohibited here. Am I reading that correctly? And if so, do we need to include some language that protects from that?
You're reading it correctly, that it doesn't prohibit, I suppose, explicitly any interest or other fees if they fail to pay.
So theoretically, if the owner of a car said, I'm sorry, I can't pay right now, I need to enter into a payment agreement, there could be entering into a payment agreement fee.
Well, that's a good question. Our ordinance does cap the maximum allowable fees for the towing, for the storage, and for any special treatment. I would argue that those cap the fees and that any other fees associated with the towing can't be charged. We could make it explicit. I know one thing that we've talked about with the administration is drafting up a sample payment agreement for towing companies to use if they would like, and that may be able to specify what fees are allowed and not allowed, but it may be a good idea to include something like that in the ordinance.
Okay.
Local towing company owner Ken Parrish said a company's full payment is not guaranteed by payment plans. He said a payment should be made in full according to state guidelines. Lucas said businesses engaging in non-consensual towing would be fined. Councilmember Volin asked about signage requirements.
Is there a requirement for the sign posted? Is there specific language that must be on a sign posted as a result of this ordinance?
So the ordinance states that before a vehicle can be towed from a parking lot, a sign must be installed for at least 24 hours prior to that tow. So you can't just throw up the sign after the tow. But it says the sign has to include a statement that the area in the immediate vicinity of the sign is a tow-away zone. It must include a 24-hour phone number where vehicle owners can call to locate their vehicle, and must include a description of the persons permitted to park in the affected area, if applicable.
Volin said time specifications should be required. Councilmember Piedmont Smith questioned what constitutes as a customer. She asked City Attorney Mike Ruker for clarification.
It's this definition of customer. If they could say customer parking only for customers while doing business at this location, that's clear. If they say customer parking only, that's unclear. So I guess it's up to the business whether to be clear or unclear. I don't know. I think it would be helpful to the public to know exactly what is meant by customers.
Sure. And again, if you're intending to spend a long time downtown or a while downtown at multiple businesses, I would not put your car at one individual busin's lot. Choose somewhere else to locate it, I think, is the short answer. And
sure,
I think
you can say that, but legally.
Sure, and I think again, you could say while transacting business, but again, at the moment you stop transacting business at that particular location, you're no longer a customer of that business, is probably the way our department would interpret that.
Community member Mike Carmen requested inclusion of a more specific definition of predatory towing in the recommendation. Council members agreed more consideration is needed over the recommendation. The recommendation failed to pass. And we will have more Cats Week after this message.
I'm at risk of thinking there's just no point in trying.
I'm at risk of looking in the mirror and hating what I see.
I'm at risk of regretting what I do, just to join the crowd.
I'm at risk of being told not to tell. And you would never know it by looking at me.
But with Girls Inc. in my corner,
There for me, every day. Believing in me,
showing me what's possible.
I can be strong enough to respect myself and my body.
To say I can rather than I can't.
To say no with no apology.
To be a leader.
To finish school.
To own my future.
To break the cycle.
Girls Inc. believes every girl can succeed. That's why the trained professionals of Girls Inc. are there for our girls every day, supporting, mentoring, and guiding them in a safe, girls-only environment. Building bonds that last for years and change that lasts a lifetime. Girls Inc. gives girls the tools they need to boldly face challenges, to resist peer pressure, to be the first in their families to go to college, to beat the odds. With Girls Inc. in her corner, every girl can be healthy, confident, and resilient. She'll do more than dream about her potential. She'll reach it.
With you in my corner.
With you in my corner, I will not be another statistic.
I will fight for myself.
For my future.
With you in my corner, I will win.
Fuel her fire and she will change the world. Girls Inc. Inspiring all girls to be strong, smart, and bold.
Welcome back to CATSweek. The Monroe County Commissioners approved a mutual release settlement with CalFee Zoning. Attorney Dave Schilling said separation allows a new zoning firm to conduct the county's zoning ordinance redraft. He spoke at the January 22nd meeting.
This settlement and release agreement reflects the parties' agreement as to how to terminate and move forward. And essentially under this agreement, both parties walk away, no additional payments, no costs, release from any future claims by both parties. And we think that, looked at this in the legal department and think that it represents the best way forward to clear the path to work with our new consultant and to protect some of our county resources, time, and so forth.
Schilling said separation was caused by disagreements between the county and CalFee Zoning. At the Commissioner's January 22nd work session, Health Administrator Penny Cottle proposed a renewal for a harm reduction agreement.
And that will cover a person who works partly in the syringe service program, does outreach testing for us for hepatitis C, HIV testing, does data entry, also some supplies and things like that.
The Commissioners unanimously approved the agreement renewal. At the January 23rd meeting of the Bloomington Historic Preservation Commission, Connor Hederich proposed releasing the demolition delay on a 9th Street home. According to Hederich, the structure may have significant historical ties to Bloomington's Black history and may have been built by J.L. Nichols.
Perhaps J.L. Nichols' son or himself may have designed this house, but further research into that was needed. It was also suggested that it may have some significance to African American history in Bloomington. Further research into that was needed as well. Across the street is the fraternity house.
First Black Fraternity.
First Black Fraternity, right. I was trying to think of the name of it, but I can't.
Hederich said the house maintains all original windows and flooring. Commissioner Chris Sturbaum said home additions could be constructed to satisfy the developer's vision of the property. Commissioner Duncan Campbell said the home has historical context.
And the architecture is very unique. Nichols are not, and it's got integrity, which was a primary historical criteria. So, to say it doesn't have criteria, I'm sorry, I just don't buy it. And it's the context is there, and everything we protect doesn't have to meet its highest and best use in the community. It doesn't have to be okay for 5 people. It could be okay for 2 people. It doesn't. We're not supposed to be engaged in the developer's criteria. So, you know, if I were voting, I would vote for designation right now.
Hederich said Fred Prowl commissioned the home in the 1920s. Board members tabled the hearing until their February 13th meeting. Zoning planner Ryan Roebling requested a use variance to allow raising goats on a residential core zoning lot. Roebling pointed to current Unified Development Ordinance violations during the January 23rd Bloomington Board of Zoning Appeals meeting.
The property, this property is less than 1/8 of an acre and is significantly smaller than the required minimum of 5 acres for maintaining livestock, and does not allow for the 1 acre of dedicated pasturage. Additionally, structures associated with raising of livestock are required to meet minimum setbacks from front and side property lines. The current structure is set back 0 feet from the western side property line and 14 feet from the south side property line and 5 feet from the north front property line. The size of the property does not adequately allow for livestock and livestock waste to be located safely away from surrounding residents. The department finds adverse impacts associated with the proposed use variance. The sight, sounds, smells, etc. of livestock are not customary in small lot urban residential neighborhoods. These nuisances could contribute to the loss and value of adjacent properties.
Roebling said the variance does meet comprehensive plan goals. The plan supports urban residential livestock. Petitioner Kimberly Carballo said the new UDO allows livestock by animal size.
The considerations for space are very different for dwarf and pygmy goats than they are for full-size goats. So according to Story's guide, which is sort of the bar setting for this particular animal care, the space is sufficient. It's actually several times more than the minimum space that they recommend. And I understand that the city needed to follow up with the same arguments that it had before, but it is my understanding that the UDO was amended to consider animals by size, in other words, by height and weight, rather than simply by species.
Carballo said many neighbors wrote in support of the goats. She said inspection of her livestock would be welcome. Development Services Manager Jackie Scanlon said the variance must be considered under the current UDO. She said the lot has to be unique for a variance, not the land use.
So like number 3 for a use variance, the need for the variance arises from some condition peculiar to the property involved. Right. You know, it's supposed to be that, you know, the zoning code was written for rectangular lots and you have some weird one-off, you know, triangular, octagonal lot that you can't meet the setbacks, and
sure,
you know,
so
that's really what
to that issue.
Right. So this is more along lines which we have, you know, seen in other variance requests of that the user of the lot is unique, and that's why they are requesting a variance, not because the lot is actually unique in any way.
The BZA denied the variance under the current UDO code. And that is all for CATSweek. Thank you for joining us. For CATS and WFHB, I'm Annalise Poorman.